James, honey, did something happen to you? After we got separated in that long hallway? Are you confusing me with someone else? You were always so forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you Maria?
Hey everybody, I'm the Otaku Artist, and today I'll be covering everything you probably missed in Silent Hill 2. This is a standalone video that goes over details that first-time players may not have picked up on. It can also be seen as a bonus video for my Silent Hill 2 Let's Play. But you don't need to have seen that Let's Play to watch this. This video is directed towards new fans who recently beat the game for the first time, covering details you may have missed such as the alternate endings, some plot details, symbolism and meaning behind enemies, and more. Even though this is directed at new fans, those who have been fans of this game for a long time can still enjoy this as a recap video. This video turned out to be a lot more detailed and longer than I expected, with so much information that you'll probably learn at least one new thing. There's a lot to unpack with this game, so there's a lot to talk about. In the video's description, I've included my sources for a lot of the information I used in this video. Some of this information I already knew, but I also learned a lot researching this game. It was really helpful having a hub of information to reference, so special thanks to silenthillmemories.net and the Silent Hill Wiki. I highly recommend looking through both sites, as they are both very good documentation of information on this game. But be wary of spoilers for the rest of the series, since many games are tangentially connected to each other and some share plot elements. Also keep in mind that on the wiki, some information may just be theories or speculation, so do your own research too. I also want to give a huge thanks to ThePlantCommander with helping me with this video. He helped a lot with the script and researching stuff for this video, so I've linked his channel in the description below. Go check it out. He makes a lot of great video game content, original music, and more. Now before we head into this video, a small warning. This is probably already very obvious, but this video will contain spoilers for Silent Hill 2. So it's best not to watch unless you've already beaten the game. I will also talk a little bit about plot elements from other Silent Hill games, but I won't go into extensive detail. This video will be covering the original Silent Hill 2, not the remake for PlayStation 5. I've also included timestamps in the description below of all the different chapters of things I cover, so if you'd like to skip around the things you find interesting, use the timestamps below. So, without further ado, with that long intro out of the way, let's get into the video, starting with the different endings of the game. There are 6 different endings you can get, all with different requirements to reach them. 3 of these endings can happen in any playthrough, while the other 3 can only be seen after beating the game at least once. All steps to reach each ending in detail are listed in the description below, as well as links to videos covering all endings in full. Special thanks to silenthill.memories.net for covering this. I won't be covering all the details here, as there are many steps and requirements for each ending. Endings typically take in factors such as how much health you had, how much you heal, interactions with objects, locations, characters, time spent doing certain activities, and more. You get the picture. All the endings have a lot of various different things you must do to get that ending. Even though there are 6 different endings, there is no clear-cut one that is canon. It is left up to interpretation. It has been stated by some developers that they believe In Water is the canon ending, but this has never been confirmed by any in-game information from anywhere else in the series, so it's best to consider this as their interpretation rather than outright confirming it to be the canon ending. However, there are 2 joke endings which probably don't have any chance of being canon. For the 3 main endings, the dialogue and cutscene with the final boss is different. In fact, the final boss itself can either be Mary or Maria depending on the ending you got, although this doesn't change the fight itself in any way. Now, in all 3 main endings, we always see Mary's letter from the beginning of the game play in full. From this letter, we get a lot more depth to James and Mary's relationship, and can understand the motives behind James killing Mary more.
Mary?
When will you ever stop making that mistake? Mary's dead. You killed her.
The leave ending is probably the one you got on your first playthrough, and is the one I covered in my Let's Play. To receive this ending, you should make sure your health is high, shouldn't check on Maria too much, and don't check Mary's objects in the inventory much.
The truth is, I hated you. I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
James, if that were true, then why do you look so sad? Please. Please do something for me. Go on with your life.
This is considered a good outcome, as James comes to terms with what he did to Mary and decides to move on from it, starting a new life by taking care of Laura.
James, I've been waiting.
Mary. I'm sorry it took so long.
You must have hated me. That's why you got rid of me.
It's true. I may have had some of those feelings.
To get the Maria ending, you need to focus on her a lot during the playthrough, without checking on Mary's items much in your inventory.
You killed Mary again?
That wasn't Mary. Mary's gone. Come on. Let's get out of here.
What about Mary?
It's okay. I have you.
In this ending, James justifies the murder of Mary, and moves on with Maria. He leaves Silent Hill with Maria, or at least the thought of her? It's unclear whether Maria is real or not, but we will get more into that later in the video.
Mary?
Wrong again. Mary's dead. You killed her.
Maria? Maria, I'm done with you.
To get this ending, you must keep your health very low throughout the game, as well as a few other actions that worsen James' mental state, such as frequently examining Angela's knife.
Now I understand the real reason I came to this town. I wonder, what was I afraid of? Without you, Mary, I've got nothing. can be together.
In this ending, James gives in to the guilt of killing Mary and decides to end things completely. Throughout the game, suicide is brought up many times, and so this is the result of him giving in to those thoughts. This could be considered the bad ending, as it is very much an opposite to the Leave ending.
James.
Maria, I'm finished with you.
What? But I'm what you wanted.
Now we'll move into endings that can only happen once you beat the game at least once. To get the Rebirth ending, you must collect 4 ceremonial items in New Game Plus, which are the White Chrism, Book of Lost Memories, Obsidian Goblet, and the Crimson Ceremony Book.
I can't live without you, Mary. This town, Silent Hill. The old gods haven't left this place. And they still grant power to those who venerate them. Power to defy even death.
In this ending, we see James rowing in a boat to an island, having completely lost his mind. This is probably the ending that leaves the most questions, referencing the cult that made Silent Hill the way it is. It's alluded to that James is going to this island to resurrect Mary. It's also worth noting that when James says,
"The old gods haven't left this place,"
is also a quote in Maria's side campaign, as the mysterious man behind the door also says this.
Maria, the gods are here.
Resurrecting someone is not a new concept to Silent Hill, as Silent Hill 1, 3, and Born from a Wish make use of this idea as well. The music that plays during this ending has vocals that are reversed, and upon reversing the song, you can make out what the vocals actually are saying. This ending is only in the greatest hits / director's cut versions. Once you've beaten both the main story and Maria's campaign, you can find a blue gem item. You must use this gem in 3 locations, ending the game immediately once you use it the 3rd time. This is one of 2 joke endings and is obviously not possibly canon. In this ending, well, just watch. Now, I've saved the best ending for last, the second joke ending. To get this ending, you must beat the game 3 times by getting the 3 main endings in the same save file. Or, you can skip all those steps and just get the Rebirth ending. In New Game Plus, you can find a special key which towards the end of the game, you can use on this specific door in the hotel, and discover the real mastermind behind Silent Hill's horrors.
前の仕業だったのか?
For those of you wondering why that was in Japanese, it's because Guy Chihi, the voice and motion capture actor for James, was against the dog ending's inclusion at all, and didn't want to record it because he couldn't take it seriously. Despite this, that's still him, just speaking Japanese. The original Silent Hill 2 was only ever voiced in English, and the various international releases only changed the language of the menus and subtitles. Team Silent was insistent at wanting it in the game, so, after a lot of protesting, Guy eventually ended up reluctantly agreeing to record it in Japanese, just to add to the absurdity of the scene. Once you beat the game once, you unlock New Game Plus. This includes a lot of changes. As stated in the previous section of this video, there are different endings, some of which require certain key items to get said endings. These items only appear in New Game Plus, such as the blue gem, dog key, and the 4 ceremonial items. Upon beating the game once, you unlock the ability to change a couple of things in the menu, such as adjusting how many bullets you pick up from items, and the ability to toggle a grainy filter over the game's visuals. There are 2 new weapons available to use in New Game Plus. The first is the chainsaw, which you can find towards the very beginning of the game, next to Silent Hill Ranch. The chainsaw is very powerful, being a one-hit kill to most enemies, but is very slow to use, making it potentially dangerous to use in certain situations. The second weapon is the Hyper Spray. The Hyper Spray is a very unique weapon, as it can have 4 different variations, all depending on how good your ranking was in your previous playthrough. Some sprays can damage, some can freeze, and some can kill. All sprays can kill creepers and also have the added ability of dispelling the moths in the final boss fight. You must shake the can to refresh it after some uses, similar to reloading your gun. On screen are all the differences between sprays, so you can pause the video if you're interested in the differences and want to try getting one of these on your next playthrough. Upon starting the game, you are met with 2 different options: Combat and Riddle difficulty. For Combat, you have 4 options: Beginner, Easy, Normal, and Hard. These change how many health items and ammo spawn, as well as how much damage the enemies do. I recommend playing on Normal for your first playthrough because, as long as you're smart about how to use your ammo and healing items, you won't struggle at all. For Riddle difficulty, you have 4 different modes: Easy, Normal, and Hard. The 4th mode, being Extra Riddle level, is unlocked by completing Easy, Normal, and Hard Riddle difficulty once. This mode is hidden, as it's not an option on screen once you unlock it. Instead, the next time you choose Hard difficulty, it will be Extra Riddle level instead. After beating this extra difficulty once, the game will alternate between Hard and Extra each time you play through Hard. Each riddle level has different puzzles with different solutions, making each playthrough feel fresh when changing difficulties. There are 9 enemies in Silent Hill 2. Now, you may have seen every enemy there is to offer in the game and just assume that they were just monsters and nothing more, just like any video game. However, Silent Hill does things differently. In this game, the monsters are connected to the story, each symbolizing something important to do with the story and characters. Now, there is something very important to know about the enemies. The monsters you see in-game is how they appear to James, as they do not appear the same way to everyone else. This is heavily implied by dialogue throughout many of the games, as well as confirmed by the developers. Depending on the sin of the person, the monster will appear differently to that person. The exception of this rule is Laura, since she is a child and has not committed any serious sin yet, so she doesn't see any of the monsters in town. This can be seen in-game as she is confused at James' remarks about the monsters. All the enemies were designed by Masahiro Ito, who does a brilliant job creating unique and memorable character designs. He still talks about his work on Silent Hill to this day, as he is an active member on Twitter and often shares his insight on his work in the series. In the final save square room of the game, you can see 9 red squares, which are thought to represent the 9 monsters you face in Silent Hill. Let's go over each enemy design one by one, starting with the first enemy you see. The lying figure can be seen as a humanoid figure, with arm-like protrusions in its torso, looking like a hospital patient writhing in agony. It walks in an inhuman way and can crawl quickly on the ground erratically. It has been theorized that this enemy appears the way it is because of Mary calling herself a monster due to her illness, although this is not confirmed, just a theory. It is also theorized that the lying figure's attacks are symbolic of Mary's coughing, but Ito clarified that this was not intentional. The lying figure is a physical manifestation of the memories of Mary on her deathbed, and James's internal suffering. The design of those enemies was inspired by BDSM fashion, and the movements of someone on the development team wearing a hoodie. The lying figure went through many different designs before the final one we see here. The Bubblehead Nurse is one of Silent Hill's most popular enemies, as it is reused in a lot of different Silent Hill media. Although, interestingly, there usually is valid context to justify why it keeps showing up. The nurse is a humanoid monster wearing a skimpy nurse's outfit. Their heads are wrapped in a thin mask containing a liquid mixed with blood. The head is very swollen, reminiscent of Mary's appearance during her illness. Now, this is a detail that most people miss, but if you're an eagle-eyed viewer, you might notice that the bottom center of the mask looks like a baby's face, which, according to Ito, represents how Mary and James wished to have a child, but couldn't. This baby face is sometimes hidden by a red save square. Much like most of the enemies in this game, the nurses jitter in an inhuman way due to the suffocation they experience from the masks. This is theorized to represent how James suffocated Mary with a pillow, the red square symbolizing Mary's misdirected anger towards James towards the end of her life. During development of Silent Hill 2, the Bubblehead Nurse's mask was intended to burst like a balloon when taking damage to the head. Instead of a steel pipe, their weapon was going to be a blood transfusion stand. However, this was changed to be a pipe as homage to Harry Mason, the protagonist of the first Silent Hill game. Unlike the other enemies in Silent Hill 2, the creeper... No, not that creeper, is not a representation of anything related to James or the story of Silent Hill 2. The creepers are a manifestation of a character discussed in the first and third game, Alessa Gillespie, as she strongly dislikes insects. This seems to be one of the remnants of Alessa's influence on the town. In Silent Hill 2, these bugs behave and look slightly different than in the first game. They make a strange noise when close to James, sounding like a squeak of a toy. The rarest enemy in Silent Hill 2 is the Mandarin, only appearing 3 times in the entire game. The Mandarins are always seen trapped, hanging onto the metal grate above an abyss. According to a Japanese exclusive document titled Lost Memories, not to be confused with the spin-off title of a similar name, likely symbolize feelings of anguish and helplessness with an immense desire to escape. It is thought that these creatures are forced to hang onto metal grating forever, and if they let go, they will fall into an abyss below. This could represent how James's psyche is hanging from a thread, and that he's on the brink of insanity. It's speculated that since the Mandarins are stuck underground and in the dark, this could also represent James's repressed emotions and memories. An excerpt from the novelization of Silent Hill 2 points to the Mandarins trying to get James' attention, as if they're trying to get him to remember his crimes. The mannequins are human-like monsters, appearing as two sets of legs connected to each other. Because of Mary's hospitalization, James began to become sexually frustrated, and the mannequin are a result of those urges. It's thought that they appear only as legs connected to a torso due to those urges, as well as James's repressed memories making them lack a fully human appearance. The mannequins have leg braces on each set of their legs, which is similar to what Mary had to use to help her walk during her illness. It's difficult to see in-game, but these monsters have tubes on their abdomens, which reflects James' memories of the hospital. Originally, these were not intended to be enemies in the game, and only planned to be used in cutscenes. Now it's time for the bosses, starting with the Fleshlip. The Fleshlips have a very inhuman design, appearing as a mass of flesh in a cage that hangs from the ceiling. They have a pair of human-like legs, with a pair of lips on the bottom of the monsters. It's pretty obvious what this looks like, but I'd rather not spell it out. The Fleshlip is trapped in a cage, much like how Mary was trapped in a bed. 3 of these monsters appear in its boss fight, which could represent the 3 years of Mary being sick. Abstract Daddy. Just like the Creeper, this is one of the few monsters that was not created from James's trauma. Rather, in this case, Angela's. From the name of this boss and the cutscene that accompanies the fight, it is easy to piece together the meaning behind this monster. Angela suffered horrible abuse from her father, and as a result, this monster represents that trauma. We see this creature as 2 figures intertwined over a bed frame, trapped by flesh covering them. However, Angela sees this monster as her father, and according to Ito, it appears much more horrifying to Angela than to James. Since James does not see the monster in the same way Angela does, it's theorized his memories of Mary influence its appearance, tying into Mary's bedridden state. Just like the monster, Angela may see the areas of Silent Hill differently too. In her final cutscene, we see her walking up a fiery staircase with 2 framed, stretched skins along the walls, which represent her suffering. Angela states that she always sees the world like this, which could mean that Angela sees things much more differently than James, not just referring to Abstract Daddy, but other areas and rooms in Silent Hill. In the hotel, Abstract Daddies start appearing as enemies, but unlike its first encounter, is not believed to be anything symbolic, and just a result of this story being a video game, as a result of this quote from Ito. However, like the rest of Silent Hill 2, there are many theories as to why this could be, instead of it just being a simple answer of Silent Hill 2 being a video game. The most famous of all Silent Hill enemies, and probably the one with the most well-known lore, is Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head is a mirror of James Sunderland, a manifestation of how James wishes for punishment for the guilt he has over what he did to Mary. There is so much documented about the design choices and history behind this character, but for now I'll just be focusing on the symbolism. Otherwise, we'd be here a long time. If you'd like to know more, I highly suggest going to the Silent Hill Wiki, as it's a treasure trove of information on the topic. It is well known that Pyramid Head appears in many other Silent Hill media besides 2, much to Masahiro Ito's dismay, but unlike the nurses, this rarely makes a lot of sense. It is widely accepted by both fans and Team Silent themselves that it only makes sense for Pyramid Head to appear to James, as it's supposed to represent his guilt, especially since even in the game itself, it's implied that James is the only one who can see it. Besides Maria, which could tie into her probably not being a real person. In all other appearances, Pyramid Head is considered to be nothing more than an Easter egg or fan service, or even a blatant excuse to use him as marketing material. Sometimes this is simply a non-canon joke not meant to be taken seriously, like in Downpour, and sometimes it makes no sense whatsoever and actively contradicts the lore, like in Homecoming. It is also worth pointing out that Pyramid Head appears in both Silent Hill movies, which are based on Silent Hill 1 and 3 respectively. While none of the characters from Silent Hill 2 are in either of those games or their film adaptations, Pyramid Head is implied to have a different reason for existing entirely, with James completely out of the picture. Presumably, Pyramid Head will no doubt appear in the upcoming movie based on Silent Hill 2, where it will most likely fill a similar role to the game. But as of the time of writing this video, very little is known about this film. Now, all this pales in comparison to the best appearance of Pyramid Head, which can be found in New International Track and Field for the Nintendo DS, as a playable character. Yay. In Silent Hill 2, Pyramid Head manifests in the way it does because of James' guilt, as well as it being a distorted memory of executioners, as Silent Hill once had many in the town's cult. If you're new to Silent Hill 1 and 3 go more in detail about the cult surrounding the town. However, Pyramid Head does not appear until 2. There are a few reasons why Pyramid Head was given its unique head, but from a lore standpoint, the helmet represents James' torment, as it is meant to look as uncomfortable as possible. It is thought that the creature is in a lot of pain due to its heavy, sharp helmet. Another widely circulated theory is that Pyramid Head actually looks like James beneath the mask. But there is no evidence to support this, and Masahiro Ito himself believes that, quote, "It's binded someone's head with many frames," whatever that means. As James' character arc and psyche changes, Pyramid Head does as well. When James picks up the knife that Angela planned to end herself with, Pyramid Head begins to appear with his great knife. Later, James can find a great knife as well as a weapon. This ties into his mental state, which, if worse enough, results in the in-water ending. This creature exists to help James realize his guilt, and, as its role as Punisher, is often seen attacking monsters. There is a scene where James hides in a closet while Pyramid Head abuses 2 mannequins. It has been argued over the meaning of this scene for a long time, but I will be going with what the wiki lists, as it has sources to back it up. This scene represents James' inner conflict with his fear of facing his inner demons. As some of the development teams explains, it was intentionally made to be erotic to be scarier. However, Ito has stated that it is not a sexual abuse scene. Throughout the game, Pyramid Head kills Maria on 2 scripted occasions, which is its attempt to force James to remember the murder of Mary, and to stop his delusion of Maria. After James remembers and wakes up from his delusion, Pyramid Head's job is finished, and so, it ends itself. And now for the final boss, Mary. Despite the name, this isn't actually Mary at all in most endings. It's Maria appearing as Mary to James. Depending on what ending you choose, the dialogue and cutscene will be different, and you only appear to encounter Mary herself in the Maria ending. Regardless of who you encounter or what ending you get though, the boss fight itself is always the same. When Maria/Mary transitions into her boss form, the transition is glitch-like, much like how the videotape glitches before revealing the truth of James' sin. She appears as Mary's diseased corpse in a metal frame, representing her bedridden hospitalization. The frame has sharp spikes at the end, which references Mary's suffering. It should be noted that her design is very similar to the Fleshlip boss fight. Mary's boss form appears this way because of James's conflicted emotions towards Mary in her final days. This boss is a manifestation of Mary's overwhelming negative feelings. How she felt that her illness was unfair, her being confused about her true feelings, and the way she would lash out at James towards the end of her life. One of Mary's attacks is a tentacle used to strangle James, much like the Fleshlip strangle attack. This mirrors how James suffocated her to death. In this design, you can see a head covering similar to a nun. This could be interpreted to either represent Mary's hair loss due to her illness, or forced celibacy due to her being sick. With this game having multiple endings and different dialogue before the fight, it ties into James's conflicted feelings about Mary. Since this is actually Maria in most of the endings and not Mary, this monster form makes it even more unclear if Maria is real in any way, or is just a manifestation created by the town like the rest of the monsters. In some dialogue, it's hinted that this could have been created by some frustrations of James's rejection of Maria as well. Even in the Maria ending, in which the boss is never implied to be Maria at all, James says,
That wasn't Mary. Mary's gone. That was just something
leading to much discussion about whether the monster was real at all, and whether or not the answer to that question extends to Maria herself. There are many theories that Maria, and by extension the monster, were just figments of James's imagination, manifested into the town due to James' conflicting feelings and sexual frustration towards Mary. The side campaign, Born from a Wish, adds to these theories, as Maria knows who James and Laura are, despite her never having met them yet, as this side campaign takes place before the main story. Although it is worth mentioning that it is not clear if this side campaign is canon or not. We will get more into if Maria is a figment of James' imagination, a real person or not, a little bit later, but I thought it was worth talking about that as well here, since it connects to the whole final boss fight. In some of Mary's attacks, you can see moths surrounding her. This could symbolize Mary slowly decaying due to her illness and her death. It should be noted that Maria has a butterfly tattoo, which represents rebirth. In the game, 2 quotes from a book from the Bible, Job, can be found. The first one is, "While I am decaying like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eating," referencing Mary's disease and the moths. The other quote reads, "Thy hands fashioned and made me, and now thou dost turn about and destroy me," which could be referencing how James made Mary happy and took care of her, at least until he murdered her. Moths can also be found in room 202 of the Woodside Apartments, which are attracted to James' flashlight. Some moths can be seen dead on a bed, which could be theorized to represent Mary dead in her hospital bed. It should be noted that the flashlight was originally found on a mannequin wearing Mary's dress, which could be theorized to mean a whole bunch of different things. And now for a bonus enemy! Yes, there is one more. I cover the main ones that you all probably know, but did you know that there is technically one more? And you may not have even noticed it. In the prison area, there are 2 monsters hidden in jail cells. They are invisible, having no model, but count as separate enemies. Even though you cannot see them and they are harmless, James can kill them, emitting a human-like cry of killed. The prisoners chant, which could tie into the rebirth ending. However, it is not clear why the prisoners are here, who they are, if they're even real, or what exactly they represent, if anything. the prisoners could be connected to the town's cult and the old executioners. I'm not sure about the legitimacy of this claim, but I would like to mention that the wiki suggests that if you reverse their speech of them saying ritual, it could be conveyed as saying, "Are you sure?" It certainly sounds like this could be the case. If true, this could represent James's conflicting feelings on Mary, or him thinking over the decision to do the ritual in the rebirth ending. It is theorized that the prisoners could represent Mary trapped, and, when killing the prisoners, could represent James putting her out of her misery. It is also theorized that the prisoners could represent James himself, and how Mary's illness trapped him in a horrible position. Before moving on to our next segment, I would like to mention that as stated before, some room and areas may have hidden meanings as well, just like the enemies. Examples of this include Abstract Daddy's boss room, room 202, and more. Maria is a very important character in Silent Hill 2 and the protagonist of the side campaign, Born from a Wish. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of theories and speculation regarding Maria, as she is a very mysterious character who leaves a lot to the imagination. Some theorize that she is not real, either in the way that she is in James' imagination, or a manifestation of the town, similar to the monsters. Some theorize she is real to a certain extent, being a real person who James sees in a different way due to his trauma and the manipulation of the town. If this theory were to be true, it would leave a lot of questions since Maria dies multiple times. Another theory is that she might be a resident of the town. Some appearances of her are real, some in James' mind, her dialogue being heavily altered by James' perception. This again raises several questions and inconsistencies, so it's unlikely. The most plausible theory, and the one with the most evidence and support, is that Maria is a manifestation of the town and is simply another monster, albeit a very complex one. It is widely known that monsters in Silent Hill appear differently to different people, if they appear as monsters at all. A scene from Silent Hill 3 outright states this.
You're the worst person in this room. You come here and enjoy spilling their blood. And listening to them cry out. You feel excited when you step on them and snuff out their lives.
Are you talking about the monsters?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you?
But there is direct evidence of this in Silent Hill 2 as well. Eddie, when asked, has no knowledge of Pyramid Head despite their close proximity in the first encounters with each of them.
You're not friends with that red pyramid thing, are you?
Red pyramid thing? I don't know what you're talking about. Honest. But I did see some weird-looking monsters.
Laura seemingly has no idea that the monsters exist at all.
There are all sorts of strange things around here. I can't believe you haven't even gotten a scratch on you.
Why should I?
And perhaps most important is that Angela sees the Abstract Daddy as her own father.
You're only after one thing.
No, that's not true at all.
You don't have to lie. Go ahead and say it. Or you could just force me. Beat me up like he always did.
This is crucial to this explanation of Maria for two reasons. First, as explicit proof that monsters can take on forms of different people simultaneously, and two, this shows that monsters can appear as people. Not only people in general, but specifically someone relevant to the observer. Silent Hill 2 explicitly confirms with this scene that Angela is seeing a horrific abomination as someone she knows and associates with her own trauma. So why couldn't the case with Maria be the same for James? This theory is supported by both the game and novelization of Silent Hill 2. In most endings of the game, Maria can be seen in the form of Mary, who changes into a monster upon being confronted by James. It could be interpreted that the final boss is Maria's true form, revealing that she was a monster just like the others in the town that James failed to recognize as a dangerous entity until the end of the game. In the novelization, which is not considered canon but is worth bringing up, it is downright confirmed that Maria is a manifestation and is a monster.
But what is it really? Was it love or hate? Was Maria really acting of her own free will? James hesitated as suspicion began to grow in his mind. Technically, he was facing himself, since Maria was born from his subconscious. That would mean Maria was just another form of himself. Her love and her jealousy were just cleverly disguised excuses that he had made to deceive himself, because he was the one who wanted to die, but was also afraid to die, and he needed someone to kill him. It was this vile request that had turned Maria into a demon.
It should also be noted that both in the main campaign of the game and the novelization, James is the only character that interacts with Maria. The novel goes further into this direction, with this interaction between Eddie and James.
Is that why you killed Maria? 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 Who's that? I don't know, but just kill me already. Hurry, please, it hurts. Eddie's consciousness was quickly fading, and with it went the pain.
The only time Maria can be seen interacting with someone else is in Born from a Wish. Ernest is the only other character she interacts with, and this is always through a closed door, so it can't be assumed that Ernest even exists. The only time that Ernest opens the door, it is revealed that there is nothing behind said door. This could either mean that Ernest doesn't exist at all, or is a ghost. Since James mistakes her for Mary several times throughout the game, it can be thought that she's supposed to be manifested from what James wishes Mary could be. A more seductive and sexual woman who is free and not trapped in a bed. He has many conflicting thoughts about Mary, including how he wishes to be freed from her and move on with someone else, which can be seen in the Maria ending where James actually does leave the town with Maria. She also may have been created due to James' inability to accept the death of Mary, and the wish to fill that void in his life, as well as Mary's desperate desire to be better to James and to be well again. Part of James' conflicting thoughts is his desire to be with his wife again, which could be part of why Maria was created. It seems that Maria is a bad influence on James, as he is fighting with himself to either believe in an illusion and forget the truth, or accept what he did to Mary and move on. This can be seen in the different endings of the game, where he either ends Maria's control over him, or decides to accept this illusion. There is speculation that Maria, just like Mary, could also have an illness, as at one point she can be seen taking some sort of medicine and coughing often while resting in a bed. This scene could also be interpreted as Maria just being hungover as she claims, and James believing she is actually sick due to his past trauma with Mary's illness. This is all just speculation though, as Maria explains that she's just hungover while she rests. However, it should be noted that in the novelization, James makes this connection.
I'm exhausted. Maria's face was pale, and she looked like she was having difficulty breathing. It's just a slight cold. I wasn't feeling great this morning either. I guess I got distracted when I saw everyone was missing. James frowned. He was getting the feeling of deja vu, bringing back memories that carried sorrow like a curse. This was just like the beginning, when Mary had said it was just a slight cold. You'd better rest for a while, James said. Driven by anxiety, he quickly searched for a safe place for her to lie down. After stealthily examining the nearby room marked S03 and finding it to be free of monsters, he invited Maria inside and carefully helped her to the bed. I'll go ahead and at least make sure the 3rd floor is secure. Then I'll try to find Laura. I think she knows where Mary is. Are you sure you'll be okay here by yourself?
James suffers repeated trauma by losing Maria, just like how he lost his wife. Pyramid Head can be seen killing Maria multiple times throughout the game, which can be interpreted as it trying to wake up James from his delusions and remember the truth of his sins. While Maria does the opposite, luring him further into the illusion of her. In Born from a Wish, it is unclear if what happens in this campaign is canon, real, or all in James' mind. It should be noted that the title of this side campaign alone could be interpreted as evidence that Maria is not a real person and is something created either by James or the town itself. This is the most likely answer. In this campaign, we learn that Maria was either born in Silent Hill or created there. As the character Ernest reveals, a mysterious man who stays behind a locked door. This campaign is supposed to take place before the events of the main story, either showing us that Maria was created as James arrived due to his influence, or that she is a real person to some extent. Another possibility is that this entire scenario is all made up in James's mind, after meeting Maria to make her seem more real to him. Evidence towards some of these theories can be seen in this campaign, as Maria mentions Laura, before being confused at who she's talking about, when it is impossible for her to know her at this point. Another confusing detail is how both her and Ernest know about James, and his crimes before James meets Maria.
That James, he's a bad man.
James. Yes. I know.
He's looking for the you that isn't you.
Because he's kind? Do you know something?
Yes. Maria, you're...
Anyway, that's just what you think. You don't really know anything.
It should be noted that Ernest never meets James, and is in fact never seen directly at all. In Silent Hill 3, we see Maria, or a woman sharing the same name on a poster, referencing how she works at Heaven's Night. This could either be a reference / Easter egg, bearing no evidence towards Maria being real, or possible confirmation that Maria was once a real person in some way. However, most just see it as an Easter egg. Evidence that this being just an Easter egg is the fact that this only appears if you have a save file of Silent Hill 2 on your PlayStation while playing Silent Hill 3. Another possibility is this could be a remnant from James's influence in the town, as the creepers are remnants of Alessa's influence. Something interesting to note is that posters of Maria can be seen as early as the first area of the game in Silent Hill 2, before James meets her. Whether Maria is real to some extent or a manifestation, it should be noted that Maria is very unpredictable, having very contradictory and sometimes even bipolar dialogue, abruptly changing between seductive, sweet, rude, insensitive, fearful, and more. Her emotions are all over the place, and she often tries to seduce James in very inappropriate and uncomfortable situations. She seems to have aspects of Mary, both in her design and possible memories of Mary, as well as knowing certain things about James that were impossible for her to know.
Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that?
These memories from Mary could be interpreted as more evidence that Maria is not a real person, as there are many things that she knows about James and Mary without explanation. Just like Mary, she seems to care about Laura. Maria is very attached to James. She's often seen trying to get James to move on with her, and to forget what happened to Mary. Several times throughout the game, Maria can be seen trying to remind James that she is real. but it's not explicitly clear whether this is sincere on her part or blatant manipulation. Another theory regarding Maria that could be used to support the argument that she is a manifestation created from the town is right at the end of the game. When Maria is killed for the last time by 2 pyramid heads, James says this.
I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins. But that's all over now. I know the truth. Now it's time to end this.
It could be interpreted that James isn't referring to Pyramid Head, and is instead referring to Maria, or both. If this is referring to Maria, this would confirm that she was a creation of the town, and this is James realizing this. This would also work with the dialogue right before the final boss, as in all endings aside from the Maria ending, he pushes Maria away before she transforms into a monster. I do want to reiterate that this is just an interpretation, and James could just be referring to Pyramid Head in this scene. With all of these theories and everything I discussed in mind, especially with the novelization supporting this, it is most likely that Maria is a manifestation of the town and is a monster, disguised as an idealized version of Mary. If Born from a Wish is canon, the title of this side campaign adds greatly to this theory. I personally believe that everything in Born from a Wish is fiction, and just something that James made up in his mind to convince himself that Maria is real. And with that, I have one last tidbit to share with you all. This is probably the most interesting to me. It is unclear when Mary dies, as at the start of the game, James states that she died 3 years ago. We find out at later parts of the games that she was sick for 3 years. Despite Mary being dead, James receives a letter from her, begging him to go to Silent Hill. A little into James' exploration into Silent Hill, he stumbles across a girl named Laura. We find out that Laura was friends with Mary, and that they have a very personal relationship. James and Mary wished for their own child, but due to Mary's illness, never could. We see this represented through symbolism throughout the game, like an empty baby carriage in an empty pool. Laura holds another letter from Mary, from which we learn that Mary planned on adopting Laura. In the letter, we learn that Laura received this letter from Mary a week ago. This contradicts James' claim that she died 3 years ago, especially since the letter mentions Laura turning 8 years old, and she just so had happened to have had her 8th birthday a week ago. It is not clear when Mary was killed exactly, however we know that it was not 3 years ago. It is thought that in James' mind, when Mary's sickness began 3 years ago, that is when she became dead to him, since that was when their relationship fell apart. It has been theorized and later confirmed by Ito that Mary's body was with James the whole time in the back seat of James's car. In most of the endings, you get to hear Mary's full letter, which goes into detail about her feelings towards the end of her life. However, it should be noted that the unfinished letter from the beginning of the game does slowly disappear throughout the game, so it is not clear if the letter from Mary is real or not. And with that final interesting fact about this masterpiece of a game, I'm going to end this here. Oh man, this video turned out way longer than I thought, and I didn't even cover everything that this game has to offer. I might make more videos covering other aspects of Silent Hill 2 in the future, but for now, if you're hungry for more interesting facts about this game, check the description below for all the sources I used for this information. This game is just so special to me. It has such a well-written story and a cast of characters, and there is so much to unpack with it. There are so many layers to how much thought and meaning was put into the game, and we will probably never see another game like this. I had a lot of fun covering this, and if you're here for my Silent Hill 2 Let's Play, I hope you enjoyed learning more about this game. And if you're already a Silent Hill fan, I hope you enjoy this recap and hopefully learned at least one thing new. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if there's anything I missed or got wrong, let me know. I'll probably make a pinned comment if I need to correct anything I said in this video. This video took me a long time to make, a lot of time, a lot of work was put into this, so I'd really appreciate it if you like this video to check out the rest of my channel. I have a lot of Silent Hill videos on my channel, including, as mentioned before, a Let's Play of 2, as well as a ton of other non-Silent Hill related content, so I hope you enjoy your time looking around my channel. And, again, this video took so long to make and a lot of work, so if you want to support me, check the description below. I have my Patreon, merch, commissions are open most of the time, and other ways to support me are all in the description below, so I really appreciate it if you check that out. Now, this won't be the last time I talk about Silent Hill. I love this game series so much, and I have so many more ideas about things to cover about this franchise, so I hope you're excited for that in the future. So, thank you all so much for watching. I'm the Otaku Artist, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!